I need to talk about this to support this concept, this what is going on here. And again, this is another reason for disclosure. Uh, it's possible the government has known about this too. I'm sure they do, and this cabal, and they probably got a lot more information as to what the heck's going on, and we need to know this. Like I said, literally millions of people worldwide have probably been taken.
I would agree. I would agree. And again, we are here with Robert Salas, unidentified UFO phenomenon. So let's talk a little bit about experiencers, shall we, for just a moment? And I'm so glad, Robert, you decided to put all of your experiences together. And it shows the sadness in this shows is that you couldn't just share your experience without first coming out with all the physical, logical, detailed paper trail documentation of what it was that you went through and the other people went through, and the whole disinformation. And seriously, folks, when you read the book, there's points in the book where all of these different how many organizations did you say now are like part of this disclosure? Like 17, 27, I don't remember.
There are 17 intelligence agencies, and that's just the major ones in our U.S. government. And of course, there are sub-agencies below those, and all of these, of course, have secrets, and they classify information. And that's another thing I talk about in the book. I know you want to get back to the abduction thing. But
oh, no, it's okay. It's all good.
another thing I talk about is the excessive secrecy in government. So that has to stop, too, because, like I said, there's just so many things that are classified, overclassified, that the government should reveal to the public so that we can be informed, so that we can monitor the activities of our government. Because if we don't do that, we're going to have corruption in government, obviously, and we're going to have things going on behind the scenes that the public doesn't know about, and that affects them directly. So this is not a good situation if we want to maintain our democracy, and that's, again, one of my main themes here is if we want to keep our democracy, we've got to decrease the excessive secrecy in government.
I agree. You know, I don't think that there's not a whole lot of people. If you said, you know, look, we need $100 or whatever it is to go into this program that's researching and developing some top secret stuff. You know, if you would have told that to the people, and they know that there's top secret stuff being developed, most of them wouldn't even question it. But instead, what you do, it's like taking a $100 bill out of somebody's wallet, and they look down and see that it's missing, and then they look at the culprit, and the culprit goes, "I don't know where it went." You know, it's that kind of a situation, and you know that they do know where it's went, but they're not going to tell you, right?
Right.
So it's really like stealing, it's lying, it's deceptive, it's everything, all and then some. And I agree, we've had way too much of it, and I think what's happened is that, you know, it's just like a snowball. When it starts rolling down the hill, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and the more lies you tell, the more lies you've got to tell to cover up the lies, until you can't even figure out what the lie is anymore.
Exactly.
And media's bought off. We know that. That's why you can't get mainstream media to run your story, Robert, or anybody else's that has documentation and proof. It's very rare that you'll see true journalism anymore, where people come out and say the truth, because most of them have also been threatened as well. We've seen journalists that's been killed across the globe because of their wanting and needing to share the truth with humanity. But eventually, humanity's numbers will win out over those that are short-sighted, greedy, and deceptive. There are more of us than there are of them. And if we would just stand together in a very peaceful, united way and say, we're not going to take it anymore, you know, it's time for let's get this stuff open up, probably things would change. I know that sounds, some people are thinking I'm just talking a pipe dream, but it is a possibility. It could actually happen that way. Now, back to the abductions. Are you an experiencer? Are you an abductee? Or are you both?
Well, I'll let you decide. I'll tell you my story, and then you tell me.
Okay.
1985, I had gotten out of the Air Force 1971. I was working for the Federal Aviation Administration. I was living in Manhattan Beach, California, and I was living in a particular house that I recall because I used to buy a house, remodel it, and sell it, and try to get closer to the beach. I was trying to get close to the beach. So I know where I was in 1985. I know the particular home that I was in. And we had two small children, my wife, and we were asleep one night. And suddenly I wake up, and I notice that there's a strange glowing blue light coming from the living room. And this was our bedroom door was open, and this blue light was almost like a haze that moved into our bedroom. It was a bluish gray haze. And I told my wife, I woke her up and I said, I think there's someone in the house. I'm going to get up and investigate. So I woke her up, and the next thing I know, I'm paralyzed. I can't move. And this is the first thing that I'm convinced this was not a dream. And because I remember the struggle I had trying to regain my mobility, I was just completely paralyzed. I turned to my wife. I was able to turn my head, and lo and behold, she was asleep. She was unconscious, even after I had awakened her. So that was weird. But I couldn't move. The next thing I remember is looking at the entrance to our bedroom and seeing a hooded figure. I don't recall what the face looked like. It was just a figure with a hood, a dark hood, and I was somehow aware that there were others in the room, and they were small. They were not human size. They were like children. I don't recall seeing them, but I was aware of them. And the next thing I recall was rising off the bed and being guided towards the window that we had in the bedroom. Now, the amusing part about this is I recall locking that window that night before I went to bed, and I was thinking to myself, they don't know how to unlock the window. And because, again, these seemed like childlike creatures. They were smallish. But the next thing I know, I'm on the other side of the window. I can't say for sure, but it's like I went right through that window. It was not even open. And the next thing I recall is being on board a craft. I was on a metal table, and I was being shown a long needle. This needle was actually placed in front of my eyes. I remember the long fingers, and the needle was being held at the tips, and it was placed in front of my eyes, and there was a communication telepathically. It was not a verbal communication, and I was told they were going to insert this in my groin area, and that it would not hurt. And the next thing I recall was this excruciating pain of this needle being inserted into my groin. And again, this is the second thing that convinced me that this was not a dream, because I remember that pain to this day. It was the worst pain I've ever felt. And well, I did complain about this pain, and the pain instantly was relieved. It went away. Uh, Other than that, there are other possible details which I'm still trying to sort out. But uh, the next thing was basically I was taken back through a kind of a tunnel. And again, I'm floating. I'm not walking. I'm floating. I've got two of these small childlike beings on either side of me being taken through this tunnel. I see a bright white light, and then all of a sudden I'm back in my bed. Now, the next morning, I don't remember any of this. None of it. It's all, the memory was obliterated. Um, my wife and I didn't talk about it. We didn't talk about any of that happened. And it wasn't until, so this was 1985. It wasn't until 2007 we happened to be in Ireland. I was giving a talk at a conference there in Ireland. And I had heard another experiencer talk about their experience, and that got me to thinking about this, what I thought at that time was a dream. And then I asked my wife, I said, I think I ought to talk to somebody about this, and I did. I had a hypnotherapy session with somebody that did that sort of thing there in Ireland, and some of this information started to come out, and since then I've had a few other sessions, and each one of these sessions I was told that this really did happen, and like I said, the kicker was, however, while I was in Ireland, I asked my wife if she remembered anything about a bluish light in a bedroom back in Manhattan Beach, and she said yes. And you know, my wife does not lie about these sorts of things. So that finally was the kicker. That finally convinced me that this was a reality.
Well,
yeah. Go ahead.
You know, well, let me share that I think that you probably had both an abduction and an experience. For those who are abducted, they're also experiencers because they have the emotional, physical, mental communication going on with, you know, their abductors and their world around them, and as well as the other world that you're taken to around you. So it's I know that it's usually they're separated. You're either an experiencer or you're an abductee, but in my opinion, if you're an abductee, you're also an experiencer because of the way that the abduction normally handles. It's rare that somebody goes to sleep and then the next day they wake up and they're in the middle of a field and they have no idea, even 30 years later or 20 years later or whatever, of anything that's ever happened to them. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
There's always something there that they haven't experienced because that's what creates the trigger, is some trauma, some event, some, you know, and it just can be emotional. It's an emotional trigger. Can be enough to set back off the memories and unlock that door that's been shut for a while. So yeah, and as I would suggest that you're both.
Yes.
You're both. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's no question about my mind that this happened, and you know, my wife has also had some experiences. And she's come out publicly with that too. She hasn't written a book yet, but she has talked about it in public.
Well, that's good. I think, and I have a lot of people on the show, I have through the years, Robert, that are also experiencers / and or abductees. And I say in every show, it's just too bad that we just can't have some, you know, I know that there's organizations out there, but I think it just needs to be an organization where people are it's more easily accessible. The information is where people get together and share, and sometimes it's just about talking to somebody so you don't feel like you're nuts carrying this information around inside you.
We're as a group, we're not doing enough good research on this, and we're not collating the information, like you say. We need to have these stories documented, and maybe we can get together and draw some conclusions. But that's not being done. Like you say, we're just kind of individual groups and individual efforts here and there. Of course, this is still kind of a taboo subject. But
well, yeah, it's looked down upon in society, and you're kind of considered strange or odd. But that's mainstream is going to eventually know what it's about, and we can't all be the same, and thankfully so. That we're not all the same, truthfully. And at some point, you can't worry so much about what mainstream is doing, but to support those that need to be supported. So, and in doing so, you support yourself. It's that adage: when you give to somebody, you're actually also giving to yourself. It's very true. It's just very, very true. So, and research is good. Listen, I ran across a couple of organizations. One's called FREE, F-R-E-E. You might check that out. They have some beginning grassroots movements for this abduction experiencer thing. And I can give that information to you later. And I think I'm going to go ahead and post some stuff to my website. I started a page. I just haven't actually presented it yet for people that are experiencers, UFO. There's a whole gamut of stuff that goes into that, and see if we can't get something to spread out and some connections, more connections being made, so people are more assisted. Good. So I'll get that for you. All right, so we've got about 12, 13 minutes left. We kind of got sidetracked there, but I'd like the experiencer abduction. I mean, I don't envy anyone that's had an experience such as you with that long needle, and they let you look at it and say, oh, it won't cause you any pain. They say that to everybody, and of course then the pain starts. You complain about the pain, and in most people the pain instantly goes away, like yours. There's been a few that it didn't. So, I feel bad for those people that had to continue to experience the pain during whatever they were doing, whether it was harvesting or exploration or research or whatever they were doing on the human body. Mm-hmm. But what else would you like to share with us in regards to your book tonight, and personal stories as they relate to this in the 12, 13 minutes we have left here, Robert?
Well,
there's so much.
Yeah.
Talk to you for hours.
Maybe kind of all-encompassing topic here is we really need to work together on this phenomenon, the abduction phenomenon. Like you say, we need to find a way to counter what the cabal is doing, and that of course is disinformation and keeping witnesses from coming forward. We need more witnesses to come forward, obviously. It does take courage. People need jobs. They need to keep their friends and that sort of thing, and it's very difficult for people to come out, so to speak, publicly. But when that does happen, we need to respect and honor those witnesses. I think one of the things I did talk about a little bit is the state of ufology. We've got too many kibitzers, let's say, out there talking about UFOs, showing photographs, showing videos, making wild statements about things on Mars and things on the moon, things like that. Not to say that some of those may not be true, but I haven't seen any real evidence of it. And when people talk about things they can't back up, they can't support, it just denigrates the subject. It keeps it in the laugh track by the mainstream media, So we as consumers of this subject or people that are interested in this have to kind of police it so that these kibitzers don't kind of control the conversation, so to speak. Do your own research. People out there should, if they're interested in my subject, get the book, read the book, and research it. You'll find it's well researched, and support those kinds of incidents that do have backing, are well researched, and are well documented. And there are many others out there, and support those witnesses rather than trying to take sides on people that just talk about this. So again, the message is we got to come together, work together, and not just on this subject, but worldwide. We've got some very serious problems facing us. Nuclear weapons is just one, but we've got the issue of water, of food security, the effects of global warming worldwide. Many worldwide issues where the human family is going to have to work together, and not just as separate countries that are interested in their own well-being. The other thing that comes to mind is this issue with people leaving Syria in droves and migrating to various countries, trying to get away from the death and destruction in Syria. So there's a lot of things where we have to come together on.
Robert, that's a beautiful sentiment. It truly is, and we do as humanity, not as one country to another, or as one race to another, but as human being to human being. I say it a lot. We all share this planet. We actually all breathe the same air. We're all in this together. This is a ride that we're sharing together, regardless of whether we agree with each other or not. We're all sharing the same space, the same place, and it's what we chose to do. We're here. So we need to do better than what we're doing. We need to do better. I have just a couple of questions for you as I'm looking towards, the future for you here, Robert. Because you've kind of been on a talk circuit, where you go out and you talk about your own experiences. You've been doing this now for about 20 years. You've got your other book out that came out last year, The Unidentified, the UFO Phenomenon. Got a beautiful website called spiralgalaxy.org. Besides just maybe, delving more into your own abduction / experience. Wow. And doing that kind of research for yourself, are you going to continue to document any other cover-ups, I guess, secrecies? Are you done with that? What do you see going on for you as far as how much farther are you going to take this? Is there more research to be done on these topics that you yourself can find the documentation for? Those are a lot of questions, so feel free to answer what you want.
Okay. Well, when I first got into this, I went on this was 1996, I went on the Art Bell show.
Oh, yay. I remember you.
And talked about my incident and said, okay, I've got it out there, I'm done. And I told my wife, I did my duty, I told the public about this, and so I'm finished. Because, again, it's something it takes a bit of courage, to get out there and out on a limb and subject yourself to ridicule, subject yourself. Like I said, we all have jobs that we had to hold on to, earn a living, and we don't want to seem too weird. And so I thought I was finished then, and 20 years later, I'm still talking about this. My wife laughs at me. So I'll never be finished with this subject. To answer your question, it's of such import to everyone that I'll keep talking about it. I'll be going to Costa Rica soon to speak there, and then I'm speaking in Del Rio, Texas in January. But I'll continue, and if information comes my way that I can help research, or if I can help a witness come forward, which I have done, I have encouraged people. In fact, are you located in Kansas, by the way?
Kansas City area. I'm on the Missouri
Yeah.
side. Yeah.
Well, there's a man that whose story I speak about in the book, who had an incident in Iraq, by the way. He was a platoon sergeant, and he lives in the Kansas area but during this incident, the entire platoon saw this huge triangular-shaped UFO practically cover the city of Makassab, which is just south of the Baghdad airport.
Wow.
And so that's documented in the book. And I helped him, or I guess I helped and encouraged him to come forward with his story. But again, so if I can do that to other people, with other people, to encourage them to come forward, I think that will be helpful, and I'd be happy to help in any way I can to follow through on some of these other stories. So I do have other stories in the book that talk about other incidents in different places, different times.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to the really, really good stuff yet, so I can't wait till I get down to the really, really good stuff yet. Robert, I want to tell you, this has really been more than privileged, and it's certainly been educational. It's been lots of fun. I hope you've enjoyed being here with us tonight.
I have.
Good, good, and I hope we can do this again sometime. I'd like to keep in contact with you. I will be sharing some additional information. I'll be sending it along to your email, some things for you to check out and do some research on as well. So I'm just grateful that you were able to come forward, and I do ask everyone to please check out your website, which is spiralgalaxy.org. I'll get it out at spiralgalaxy.org.
Right.
Your book is able to be purchased there and also through Amazon. Is that correct?
That's correct. And by the way, if they go to Spiral Galaxy, they can go to the section where I talk about my incident, and on there they can hear actual audio tape of two of my major supporting witnesses. One is Walt Fiegel, who was at the Echo flight during those shutdowns, and the other one is Fred Mywalt, who's now deceased. But he allowed me to share his audio tape where he supports my incident and what happened there, so they can actually hear their voices directly.
And there you go. That's spiralgalaxy.org. And again, Robert, I want to tell you really how much of an honor it was to have you here tonight. I'll leave the audience with to be sure to go to my website, check it out. That's journeyswithrebecca.com. There will be a link up probably within the next 24 to 48 hours that will go into the archive of this show. So if there was any information that you missed, you can certainly go back and check it out on the website. And again, Robert Salas' website is spiralgalaxy.org. And don't forget to sign up for the free and confidential newsletter at journeyswithrebecca.com. It gives you all the latest and greatest updates, news, changes, classes, and any other good stuff. And always my guest information is on there to reach their websites or books or what have you prior to the show, so you kind of educate and get yourself up to date with that. So I want to thank everyone for joining us. I want to thank the producers for tonight. They were lovely. I thank you both, Brian and JP, and again, Robert Salas. And for the rest of you, until we meet again, which will be next Tuesday from 2 to 3 p.m. Central Time, where your life's journey leads you. Many blessings, everyone, and good night. the whole disinformation. Um, and seriously, folks, when you read the book, there's points in the book where all of these different how many organizations did you say now are like part of this disclosure? Like 17, 27, I don't remember.
There are 17 intelligence agencies, and that's just the major ones in our U.S. government. And of course, there are sub-agencies below those, and all of these, of course, have secrets, and they classify information. And that's another thing I talk about in the book. I know you want to get back to the abduction thing, but
oh no, it's okay, it's all good.
another thing I talk about, and that's again one of my main themes here, is if we want to keep our democracy, we've got to decrease the excessive secrecy in government.
I agree. You know, I don't think that there's not a whole lot of people. If you said, you know, look, we need $100 or whatever it is to go into this program that's researching and developing some top secret stuff. You know, if you would have told that to the people, and they know that there's top secret stuff being developed, most of them wouldn't even question it. But instead, what you do, it's like taking a $100 bill out of somebody's wallet, and they look down and see that it's missing, and then they look at the culprit, and the culprit goes, I don't know where it went.
Like I said, literally millions of people worldwide have probably been taken.
I would agree. I would agree. And again, we are here with Robert Salas, unidentified UFO phenomenon. So let's talk a little bit about experience here, shall we, for just a moment? And I'm so glad, Robert, you decided to put all of your experiences together. And it shows, the sadness in this shows is that you couldn't just share your experience without first coming out with all the physical, logical, detailed paper trail documentation of what it was that you went through and the other people went through.
But is the excessive secrecy in government. So that has to stop too, because like I said, there's just so many things that are classified, overclassified, that the government should reveal to the public so that we can be informed, so that we can monitor the activities of our government. Because if we don't do that, we're going to have corruption in government, obviously. And we're going to have things going on behind the scenes that the public doesn't know about, and that affects them directly. So this is not a good situation if we want to maintain our democracy. I need to talk about this to support this concept, what is going on here. And again, this is another reason for disclosure. It's possible the government has known about this too. I'm sure they do, and this cabal, and they probably got a lot more information as to what the heck's going on, and we need to know this.